So in our modern society, people sort of treat energy as like a disposable commodity. You know, we something other than who or what we are. But of course, we're made of energy. You know, we're not even solid ourselves. There's more empty space in our beings than there is, you know, solid matter. We just think we're solid, so therefore we give ourselves the illusion of this. You know, I was here just a couple of months ago teaching a spoon bending class. You know, here's some of my favorite things. Now, when I do spoon bending, I do hands-on, but everything is so soft and malleable. Here, you guys can look at those. Everything's so soft and malleable in a way that solid metal, you know, is not. So that's because I gave the spoon permission to not be so uptight. And that's basically the way I see it, that, you know, like when I'm uptight, I get really tense and hard. So I'm like, spoon, you can relax. And goes, oh, thank God, I was getting a headache with this. But our concept of reality dictates much of what reality will be for us. You know, I know people who can levitate their bodies very easily. And I've levitated a little bit here and there. I look forward to the day when I can teach like small object levitation. Then that'll be like a weekend of spoon bending and small object levitation. How awesome would that workshop be? So if we know these things are possible, just as Reverend Michael Shane, who will be here August 5th. And when he comes here, he'll be in this room, duct taped, roped and chained to a heavy chair with water in his mouth and then duct tape over his mouth and the door shut. But he creates an energy that allows the dimensions to mesh with each other. And that will allow first Lady Nada and then Katumi will come and share a bunch of stuff, answer questions, and then vocally. They usually don't come through, but in physical form, although sometimes they do. And then Jesus will come through and hello. Hi, how's it going? So Jesus will come through. And each person will get to receive a laying of the hands healing with Jesus physically touching you. And then he will give you a gift that he apports from another dimension. Like these are crystals that Michael apported for me last year. They came through from the angelic realm. It's the craziest thing. He opens up an energy vortex that's like black, and they just fall through, sometimes hundreds at a time. Sometimes other things come through, not just crystals, but these are pretty common. So why do I say this? Because we allow the world as it was defined to us to become our definition of the world. We're told gravity exists. Anything that's here will fall to here. That's it. Yet, I have seen people levitate things on up. I have seen crystals fall from another dimension. I bend metal into whatever shape I want it to be. So we can release all those definitions. And then what do we do with our new definition? What do we do with our new openness? Hey, hey, are they shopping? Okay. So now that we accept that there's more to this world than just what we see based on what we're told we should see. What do we do to get from this reality that we were given to the more fun reality? I mean, let's get down to it. The big reason why we want to do all this stuff is it's really much more fun. To live in a world where you can go through dimensions or chat with fairies when you go out into the garden or create rainbows because you can create a streak of moisture across the sky that will allow the light to refract, and yes, I've done that. It's really fun when you're out in an arid day and you allow moisture to coalesce into a certain place in the sky and rainbows appear. Now that you realize, wait, we can do that? Yes, you can do that too. But how do we do this? It's a matter of managing the energy within our being, and that gives us the skills to work with and manage the energy around our being. I say manage, not control, because of course we can't control anything. The moment you control something, you're forgetting its beautiful essence. You are enslaving it. It's a matter of managing and suggesting. When we bring energy into our body, when I lead meditations, there's always people in the group who say they get headaches or they feel pressure behind their eyes or they get stabbing pains. This is not the energy coming in. This is your resistance to the energy coming in. That, how when someone sneaks up behind you and they tickle you, it's very natural. When the energy comes in from the divine, it's very natural for us to go like that, and that causes pressure and pain, right? So that's okay. Be in and out as you need. So managing the energy is not about, okay, I'm going to allow 1 ounce of divine energy here and a rainbow flow there. It's about giving your body permission to receive. Like when you walk, you're not managing every detail of 1 step forward, the next foot forward. You're giving your body permission to go from here to there, and your body knows what to do. It's the same as opening up to receive divine energy and incorporate it within your being. Micromanaging doesn't do anyone any good. We don't want to be the backseat driver to our own inner core. However, on the flip side, if you're along just for the ride, that's when, like when you're in a guided meditation, like someone's like taking you on a chakra meditation and you're at the root chakra, like, yes, I feel it, the power of the earth, yes, 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 I'm one with nature. And they go to your sacral chakra and you're like, oh, my creative force is giving birth, this is great. They go up to your solar plexus and they're like, now I feel so full of action, I'm grounded, inspired, and action. And then they get to your heart chakra and you start like, ooh, I'm love. You start mellowing out. They get to your throat chakra and you're opening. Your third eye, you're getting, by the time they hit your crown, you're like, I'm kind of here. And then, they go on up and you're like, you don't know where you are. You're like gone. And then as they're coming back down, somewhere they pick you back up along the way and you're like, oh yeah, I don't know how long I was out. And then they come in and you're like getting more and more centered and focused. And then afterwards, someone's like, so didn't you love it when we were in like 8 chakras up and we were connecting with angels? You're like, what? Wait, what? I missed that. I was like spaced out because we're not managing the energy. We're doing the opposite of the tensing and micro-controlling. We're like just sort of going for the ride and we're gliding on what we're given, but then we're not managing it. So what we're going to do today is talk some about managing the energy within us. And you can consider this in a way like practicing scales on the piano. You're never going to play Rachmaninoff if you can't do the scales, right? When you're on a guided journey and they're like going through the chakras, you want to stay. The more you learn to stay, actually, the more you can enjoy the fullness of it. So instead of just the small micro of each chakra, you can expand to more and more and more until each chakra you can see is connected with all the dimensions around you. You have a much fuller experience because you've worked your inner core of being. There are different ways that different cultures that are like naturally energetic, connected, have done this. Of course, in Kundalini, have either of you done Kundalini? Okay. I love this. Like one of my favorite things about my mom is she would take me to Kundalini Yoga from the time I was a child up. So so this idea of the flowing energy, I'm very lucky that I got to feel my body flowing with energy at an early age. The idea of Kundalini is like, we don't just picture our chakras as balls of energy. Each chakra is a meridian of energy because it's got a lot of energy flowing through it. Anyone who studies acupuncture or any of this is aware of how an energy point here can go all the way through to an energy point here, but it passes through certain centers. As for chakras, we have like over 2,000 chakras in our body, but we've got the main chakras in our core. These are like the train stations that everyone's trying to flow through. When the energy is flowing like from your sacral chakra on up to, say, your throat chakra, the sacral chakra is about inspiration, creative flow, giving birth, divine inspiration. It's the easiest way, your gut instinct, for your guides and the angels to communicate with you. What happens when you go with your gut instinct? You're like, yeah. And every time you go against your gut instinct because your brain is telling you that's stupid, later you're like, oh, I knew better, right? Because this is the best way, the seat of creative energy and divine communication. So when you harness your gut instinct with your throat chakra, which is not just about words, of course, it's how we represent ourselves to the world and to ourselves. So someone may have a beautiful throat chakra projecting outward, but projecting inward, it's blocked because this person is very good at sharing what they believe with everyone else, but then they deny it to themselves, right? So then later we're doing a chakra meditation. They go, my throat chakra is blocked. And they leave it at that. And we're like, well, why is your throat chakra blocked? I don't believe in myself. I think I'm stupid. I'm like, well, what are we going to do about it? They're like, oh, well, I have to work on it. Until then I can't use my throat chakra. And how are you going to work on it? Well, first I have to go through all the pain of my life. And then I'm like, oh my God, that's just awful. Why would you? Yeah, exactly. No, if you were a river flowing and you've got a boulder blocking you, what are you going to do? You're going to flow over the boulder. You're going to flow around the boulder. Maybe you will get a new channel flowing, an oxbow, where it has a new path. Or maybe you will, with the energy flowing, that boulder will disintegrate, become essential minerals that nourish the planet. You don't need to go and delve into all the pain of your childhood. I mean, you can, but that's all. No, I mean, you can use your ego to do this very efficiently. And I actually have a YouTube video on how to use your ego to heal all of your unnecessary traumas that you're carrying around. But for chakra work, energy flow, you don't need that. You're like, okay, so I don't believe in my throat chakra pointed inward, only directed outward. So that means that I'm living in a way a double life. That I have great faith in my words, but I do not have great faith in my thoughts, which means I believe all of this for everyone else, but for myself I wish to deny. Well, what do you do for someone who's feeling denied? You send them love, right? If I were to go to you, Chad, I would say to you, I love sharing the best with everyone else, but for myself, I just feel a little, like I have to deny myself because I don't deserve it. The first thing you would do is say, of course you deserve it. You'd give me a big hug and send love to me, right? It would be heart to heart healing. So we can do that to ourselves. You don't need to deal with all the issues. I mean, if you want to, that's a whole different process. For this process, we just allow the energy to fill ourselves with love. And if it hits a block, we let it flow however it wants. You can say, well, instead of a stone block, how about if I just let it be a sponge block so it can just absorb the energy for now? And we'll deal with the trauma later. And then later you're like, oh, the trauma's gone because the sponge filled up and I realized I don't need that trauma. There's different ways of healing if you just focus on the energy flow and don't worry about the, oh, I can't this and I can't that. I'm not allowed this and I deprive myself that. And, when I was a child, my older sibling was mean to me and, so therefore I'm not allowed to feel fully accepted or whatever, this and that or the other. You're like, well, for energy, what is all that? It's energy. So we're going to take all energy and let it flow. I have on YouTube one time, I was channeling Jesus, and he was talking about how when he was crucified, crucifixion was very common in those days, but it was for like the lowest of the low, slaves, murderers, cutthroats, the very poor. It was a very degrading way to kill someone. So when he was crucified with all the ne'er-do-wells and vagabonds and debris. And the reason they did put a throne of crowns on him, that was in an effort to stifle his third eye. It wasn't in mockery of King of the Fools. It was to put so much pain here that he would lose his spirit vision in his last moments and only be aware of everyone looking at him with the lowest of the low and see him as unworthy, so he would see himself as unworthy. That was the goal. But Jesus was very smart. He said, they gave me a great deal of energy. It was their choice to give me all this energy. It's my choice what I will do with this energy. And he transmuted all of that energy into pure love. And then he opened himself up, and all the love of all the dimensions flowed into him. And he sent all of this love to the people around him who were being crucified, all of whom were very high divine people who agreed by soul contract to come into lives to live the life they did so they would be at this place at this time. And when all the energy of all the love of all dimensions and all being flowed through him and through him to them, it created a grid that allowed energy to then flow to all the people who were around them, that then flowed to the whole planet. And it created a mandala of healing love around our planet. So whenever you reach a block, acknowledge this is energy and you can do with it what you wish. Does this make sense? And also remember, when people say mean things to you, they're giving you energy. You can do with it what you want. You don't need to absorb mean. Just, oh, energy. Good. Now I have more love. Awesome. This is, when they talk about like having a robe of light around you or a semi-permeable net of golden love or things like that. And when people send negative stuff to you, it hits this, transmutes to love and sends back. It's not that you have to walk around maintaining a shield. Okay, only love can come through, nothing else. It's that as energy comes to you, you can do with it what you want. And if what you want is to always be surrounded by love, when the energy comes to you, it gets turned to love. Don't let it be a dagger going in, but just a blob of amorphous energy. Become clay for the potter. So when you're working with your energy centers, I'm going to